Minority Report is directed by Steven Spielberg, and this is the last film in my Spielberg series leading up to Bridge of Spies this Friday, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about this movie because this has been one of my favorite Spielberg films for a long time. So let's get into this, and we're going to be talking spoilers today. You've been warned. Now, I remember seeing this movie when I was 14 in 2002. I went with two friends of mine and their dad. And I was pumped to see it, but it was more like, yay, summer movie. I'm excited because it's a summer movie and I'm out of school right now. My friend's dad, however, on the way to the theater was just talking about Steven Spielberg and his filmography and Tom Cruise and his filmography and how excited he was to see what these guys were going to cook up together. And I remember as a 14-year-old going like, yeah, that's cool. I'm excited for this now. I'm more excited for this. It's one of the first times I can recall being a younger person having a discussion with an adult about film. This movie takes place in the very possible and grounded future of 2054. Tom Cruise plays John Anderton, a law enforcement officer working for a place called Pre-Crime. Three twins, called the Precogs, have the ability to see murders before they occur. They predict these things before they happen, sometimes way in advance if someone's able to premeditate a murder, and sometimes they have a red ball in which a murder is going to occur very soon. And it's Cruise and his team's job to stop these murders before they occur, and in the entire time span of Pre-Crime there hasn't been a single murder, so it's very successful in the public eye. But the main thrust of this story happens when there's a precognition that John Anderton himself will be a murderer. Anderton does not know this person they're saying he's going to murder, and so he flees, and we get a sort of fugitive story going on in which Colin Farrell as Danny Whitwer is trying to track him down while John Anderton is trying to prove his innocence. It's sort of like The Fugitive meets Blade Runner all meshed into one, and it's one of my favorite Spielberg films and one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies also. Besides the precognition stuff, it is a future that you actually feel could happen, and a lot of the technology that was utilized in this film are things that are already happening today. For instance, swipe technology. The system that Cruise uses to swipe through the precognitions are very, very similar to the swipe technology we have now on iPads and iPhones, and this is not something that existed in 2002. The eye scanning that takes place in this movie, wherever you go, these systems scan your eyes and remember the last thing you purchased. It also makes it impossible to have any privacy or go anywhere in secret. Minority Report is a world that absolutely feels lived in, that feels like a place that actually exists. And one of the things that Spielberg did with his cinematographer was specifically try to create a world that looked older and lived in and dirty despite its futuristic setting. Right down to the cinematographer actually quite literally bleaching the negative of the film to make it look weird and white and almost dirty and grimy, and it really paid off. The whites are way too high, everything is glowing and shiny, and there's a lot of grainy handheld shots that totally sell this more dirty, realistic looking future. I've always loved the opening scene of this movie because it perfectly introduces all of the characters that are really necessary in the story, save for Max von Sydow's character. It's an intense opening that shows us how Pre-Crime works. It also introduces almost every single conflict in the film, right down to the moral dilemma of the story. Does this guy actually kill his wife? We don't know because they stop him. Maybe he would have stopped. Maybe he had an alternate future. Is it worth taking the risk of letting him do whatever he was thinking of doing when he could possibly murder someone, but he might not? But is it worth that risk to take if you could save that person's life? And this moral dilemma is shown beautifully in one of my favorite scenes in the movie, in which Colin Farrell as Danny Whitwer is arguing with John Anderton about the fact that they don't always know if someone might do something or if someone might not do something. And Anderton takes a red ball, throws it across the table, and Whitwer catches it. Why'd you catch that ball? Because it was gonna fall. You're certain? Yeah, but it didn't fall. You caught it. The fact that you changed something from happening does not change the fact that it was going to happen. Brilliant scene, and it's a great confrontation of intellect because you have who we think is the antagonist, Colin Farrell, and in a way he sort of half is. The real antagonist is revealed later, and we have Tom Cruise, our protagonist. And I love the fact that the first time these guys meet, it's not a stupid stare down of witty one-liners and dumb comebacks. It's an intellectual discussion in which two very smart men are arguing about something through facts. Another thing I must bring up is the fact that 13 years later, the CGI in this movie still appears flawless. It looks as real as it did in 2002. He's very good at incorporating realistic CGI into his films to make them feel as if they are part of this world because of the way he films these events. One wide shot, a kid is on a merry-go-round. Then all of the men come down. Cruise comes into frame, and as we pan slightly upward, we see this ship. He uses CGI within his world. We have a kid on a merry-go-round. We have an entire neighborhood and a playground around him. We have the men and women coming down. down, and we have our hero coming into frame. All of these things exist within a world that, by the way, also has some computer-generated imagery. He knows how to sell this, incorporating it with something that feels as if it's tangible in existence. Also, what the writer and Spielberg did very well was craft a hero who is very broken. The reason he became a police officer was because his son was taken from him many years ago. He's missing. He doesn't know if he's dead or alive or where he is, and so he's tortured by this. And it's not just that. He's a drug addict. He's taking some sort of futuristic drug that he's completely hooked on. This is a broken guy. This is not superhero guy. This isn't superhero Tom Cruise. This is a guy who's got problems, real problems, and he's an extremely compelling character. The filmmaker and the writers of this movie did such a great job at setting up tiny little puzzle pieces that take an entire film to solve. You have to wait a long time to get certain answers. We see these shapes that Cruise is examining in his murder precognition. It's not until the end of the movie, really, that we see all of these things come together and it makes sense to us. This is filmmaking that respects the audience. Another thing that big blockbuster summer movies do is they have the big set piece sequence, and you can always kind of tell when it's over because the score fades out. Maybe somebody in the movie goes, they look around, and there's a long, wide take, and the scene ends. In this movie, Spielberg has a terrific action sequence involving jetpacks and Cruise fleeing from his former teammates. The very next scene, instantly, Cruise is running and Farrell is right there starting another sequence in a factory that involves one of my favorite movie weapons of all time, the sonic shotgun. But as I stated, this is what Spielberg does so well. He has one big awesome scene. You think you're done? You're not done yet. It's still going on, and it's going to be exciting. And the entire film feels exciting like that. His camera work in this movie is endlessly inventive for even the dialogue scenes. There's a lot of scenes in which characters are just talking, but the dialogue is so interesting and the backstory is so investing emotionally that it's just as exciting as any action scene. Now, as I stated, everything in this future scans your eyes. Everywhere you go, you're recorded and you're cataloged. So Anderton has to replace his eyes, and we get a very creepy scene with Peter Stormare, who is in Spielberg's Lost World, as this eye doctor who Anderton discovers after he's been drugged with anesthesia was somebody he put away in the past, who has a bit of a grudge against him, and it never really pans out as a moment, really. It's sort of like something that gets us scared for a minute, but he decides in the end, business, it's business, so I guess we'll just leave it be. But there's so many great shots in this scene that are so creepy, like when he puts the device on Anderton's head. Such a great shot, as well as the little clips holding his eyelids open. I honestly could talk about Minority Report for probably like an hour, but for time's sake, let's skip ahead a little bit. Cruise learns of something called a Minority Report, in which sometimes these three twins disagree, and someone may have had an alternate future, and Cruise believes that he does. So he steals her to try to download that memory out of her, and we get an amazing scene in a mall in which she predicts everything that's going to happen using a balloon man and eventually an umbrella to escape the men who are pursuing them. It's one of the best scenes in the entire movie. This leads into Anderton arriving at the hotel in which he is destined to kill this man, Leo Crow. The lead into this hotel room is very suspenseful. It's grim, it's dark. As I said, it's rainy. This entire movie looks dirty. It's extremely well crafted, and he finds pictures of his son in this man, and that leads into a sequence that's one of the most intense in the whole movie, in which he says, I don't have an alternate future. I am going to kill this man. And if you've seen the movie, you know how it plays out. He eventually is able to keep from doing this, and he tries to arrest the man, and then he's like, wait, you're not going to kill me? If you don't kill me, I get nothing. You're supposed to kill me, and then my family gets paid. And then the mystery gets even more interesting, and the man actually forces Anderton to kill him. They say the exact same words that Anderton and Leo Crow said in the prevision, just in a slightly different way, and the future becomes real right in front of him, just not quite as he thought it would. It is brilliant storytelling, truly brilliant storytelling. Now, it felt like the movie was leading into its third act, but we realized the movie was actually just beginning its third act, and an entire other mystery sets up. As Max von Sydow's character, who's sort of known as the father of pre-crime, is implicated as someone who has murdered someone in the past and got away with it by faking what's known as an echo. It's where he murdered someone in the exact same way that a precog predicted it, and the technician erases that incoming, thinking that the precog is just having the exact same vision again. And we get bald Cruise coming in there just laying it thick on Lamar, telling him everything he needs to know about Sean, about his missing kid, about the murder that he did, and just letting it all become public. And eventually, this man kills himself, pre-crime is shut down, and we get the happy Spielberg ending where she's pregnant and everything. There's some things I skipped over simply because, as I said, I could talk about Minority Report for an hour, but the basic fact is, Minority Report is one of my favorite Spielberg movies until the last 20 minutes or so, and it's not because of the way it ends. It just feels slightly disjointed. Spielberg sometimes has a hard time ending his movies. There are times where right after the hotel sequence occurs, and you think, okay, the film has no more steam in it. Where's it going to go? It goes other places, and they're very interesting and very exciting, but there are times where it drags in the final 30 minutes. All in all, Minority Report is a movie that I think if you've never seen, you should definitely check out, and I don't know why you watch this video if you've never seen it, because I said there's going to be spoilers, and I've just ruined a ton of stuff for you, but hopefully you have seen it. And if you haven't, I strongly recommend checking it out. It's one of Spielberg's best and most underrated movies. I'm going to give Minority Report an A. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I'm looking forward to reviewing Bridge of Spies in a couple days. I have another film series that's going to be starting up very soon relating to a little guy named James Bond. I'm excited to be doing that for you guys. Thank you so much as always for watching. If you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.